so much for being here today. We're so grateful we get to interview you. I would love if you could introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Carolyn, and I'm known as the contest queen. I've helped others win millions of dollars in cash and prizes, and I can teach you how to be a winner too.
Love it. I would love if you could tell us what your books are about.
Well, the clue is in the name, the contest queen. So I teach people how to find, organize, enter, and win sweepstakes, contests, and giveaways. Say that 3 times fast. And so my books are about teaching people step by step how to win. Because when I started entering sweepstakes on a daily basis as a hobby, there were no resources. I mean, there had been sweepstakes books written in the past, but they were mainly for contests or mail-ins. And the whole thing had moved online. So there was no modern resources available. And so that's when I wrote. The first book's almost, I know, I'm dreaded to say this, almost 20 years old now. It came out in 2006. We're quickly coming up onto the 20th sweepstakes win-iversary. And then 10 years later, I came out with a second edition, How to Win Cash, Cars, Trips, and More. Oh yeah, the first one was called You Can't Win If You Don't Enter. Obviously, you can't win if you don't enter. And I'm actually working. I would like to have it come out this year, but writing isn't always as easy as as you know, you've interviewed hundreds of authors. Prizes Everywhere is going to be the 3rd edition out as soon as humanly possible.
Love that. What inspired you to write your books?
This is a great story. I think the universe leaves you clues. So what happened was I was at the point where my daughter was 2.5, and I'm thinking, do I go back to work? Because I've been a marketer. I graduated with business marketing major. I was in marketing in the IT industry for years. Ended up, stay-at-home mom for a little bit, ran the background for my husband's business, did all the accounting and all that wonderful paperwork. And I was thinking, do I go back to work? But, being a full-time mom, I'm like, oh, I don't want to leave my baby. And I kind of said to the universe, what am I doing? And I won a trip to LA. And we got a private dinner with the Surreal Gourmet, and he cooked dinner for us in his home, and he told us all these stories. And he's not a professionally trained chef, but he's written cookbooks. He has his own cooking show. He told us of his path, and I thought, that's interesting. You don't have to have a traditional career path. And he'd said in front of his butcher block where he creates, that's the center of his universe. And I thought, that's a pretty profound thing to tell strangers. So I kind of tucked that away in my back pocket. I thought the universe is giving me these breadcrumbs, follow this path. They don't show you the whole road. We'd probably not go down it if we saw that. So I'm driving to a girlfriend's house to have coffee and tell her this story. And she said, what's the center of your universe? And the first thing that popped into my head was contesting. I thought, what am I supposed to do with that? A little while later, we met some friends, and we were telling him the story. And he said, you should write a book. You're really good at this. Because I had my marketing background and my contesting hobby, which means I actually understood it from both sides of the table, because sweepstakes is one way companies market their products and services. It's a really fun way to connect with their customers and possible future customers. So I thought, okay, I started doing some research, and someone said to me, why would you give away all your secrets? And I'm like, well, that's a good point. So I was going back to the same friend to have coffee with her and discuss this new, situation. And I went a different route than I normally do. I passed the church, and on the service announcement board, it said, you can't lose helping others win. And in that instant, I knew that I was destined to write that book, because I thought, people say God, please give me a sign. I had a literal sign. And it was back before we had cell phones with cameras on them. I should have gone back with my regular camera and take a picture. I can still see it in my mind's eye to this day. And my first book, You Can't Win If You Don't Enter, was born. Now, here's what's funny. I want to tell people not to give up because I'm an avid reader, not just an author. And I read Mark Victor Hansen's book, The 1 Minute Millionaire. Write a book in 30 days and make $1 million. Well, first of all, it took me 20 months to write my first book. And I'm still waiting for the $1 million. But I didn't give up. The point was, I didn't stop. I didn't stop until it was done. And I learned a heck of a lot. And then I wrote another book and another book. And then I started, and then I also am the caretaker, I guess would be the best word, of Helene Hadsel's legacy, because she wrote a very famous book called The Name It and Claim It Game. And it had gone out of print. And she was nearing the end of her life and realized that her family wasn't going to keep her work alive. I think she was hoping to pass it on to her grandchildren, and they weren't really interested. And so I had visited her in 2008, and she said to me, you need to teach it. When she called it Winovers for wishcraft. She loved wordplay. Her whole book is wordplay. It's so fun. And so then I sat on it. I didn't do anything with her books for 10 years. But I finally picked up the gauntlet and I started republishing all her work. And now all her work's out. So I'm up to 7 books. And then now this is interesting. This is a really interesting little tidbit because obstacles are opportunities. So I get an email from Amazon and they did not like the way I had done the copyright page in the Name It and Claim It game. And my mistake as a self-published author was copying it the way Helene had it in her books. And it wasn't the proper formatting. And it didn't even occur to me that it wasn't the proper formatting because I had the formatting in my other books. Like, why wouldn't I copy my own books? But I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, I fixed it. But in the process of fixing it, I was contacting all her previous publishers to make sure that they held no copyright. So I was getting letters from them. And I found her second publisher. He was still alive. He'd been friends with her for like 20 years. And he'd published like a couple of her books. And so I sent him what I had done and he loved it. So then I bought the rights to all his work too. And I'm in the process of publishing all his work. So it turned out to be a crisis like, oh no, Amazon's going to pull my book if I don't fix this and figure it out, led to a huge opportunity to bring out of print works back to people because these books are fantastic. And it's such a shame that they're out of print. So not only am I bringing them back to print, I'm doing all the modern stuff with them. We're making them all ebooks. And now I've started the whole process for Audible. So they'll all be available on Audible too. I mean, it's so much fun doing all this stuff. So yeah, that's my crazy little story.
Love that. When you were writing your books, who were you thinking of when it comes to who your books are for?
For anybody that was like me, so at that time, it's actually very common that a lot of women, because we had more time, like it's shifting now. When the hobby was first going on, like back in the day, like say the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, it was mostly women who had the time to sit and enter sweepstakes because you used to have to fill in mailers and send them in. And the more technology got involved, it's pretty much 50-50 now, men and women. But anybody who wants to learn how to enter giveaways as a hobby wants to learn step by step. That's my target market. And it would be probably somebody in their 30s and 40s, kids. It's a great hobby for kids. There's a lot of kids contests out there. It's so fun when they win, like a bicycle or movie passes or a skateboard or something. My daughter, I've been winning since before she was born. So she doesn't know that when she was really little, she thought this was normal, that prizes would just show up at your house. It's so fun. But yeah, it's a nuanced hobby. And so that's why I wrote the book, because some of the things that a good sweeper does, yeah, we have our own lingo, what a good sweeper does, isn't always obvious. And that's why it's important to kind of, and there's a whole community of people who knew. I figured that out when I was writing my first book, and they actually have conventions, and I'm going every year in the summer. We go to a different city. It's all volunteer run, and hundreds of people get together and learn from each other on how to win. And of course, there's prizes too.
Love that. How long have you been writing, and what made you really start?
Well, like I said, I started because it was suggested to me. And what's funny is that I remember distinctly being in college and getting a C on a paper. And I thought, that's okay. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to be a writer. By the time roughly, by the end of 2025, I should have about 20 books out. So, yeah, not a writer. And then that's just the book part, not to mention all the blog posts, all the newsletters, all the socials. I mean, that's still writing.
So true. What is your schedule like when you are writing a book?
Oh, this is the one I'm finding harder and harder, because when I started, it was almost 20 years ago. So there wasn't any social media. There was my contest website that I went onto, and we had a forum on Yahoo. It was like a Yahoo group. They don't even exist anymore. And I would just write. That was the only thing. There was no social, there was no distractions. There was the one thing I was doing. And now there's so much social media, and I'm splitting my teaching and my writing. So now I've got double the social, double the websites, double the. So actually, one of the things I'm doing is I'm starting to automate, because I'm finding I don't have time to write as much as I need to. And so I'm having to figure out, how do I shift to another level where I can produce as much as I want to, and yet still teach everybody online. It's an interesting growth year.
Love that. What do you need in your writing space to help you stay focused?
I found what I do is I keep my phone out of here. I really should shut the internet off, but I don't. And well, because part of it is my books are very resource based, and I'm inserting links and things. So I'm always checking stuff online. And also Grammarly, who's my best friend, doesn't work if you're offline. I think it's so funny. I keep getting these reports from them that I'm in like the top 95, 96, 97 percentile for words and unique words and checking and stuff, because I guess I'm a power user. Anyway, the radio, I put on the good old fashioned, not Spotify, the radio, and just have it kind of din in the background, and it allows me to focus. No headset, just the good old fashioned. And actually, the radio that I use, I won it way back in the day. It still has a cassette player in it.
Love that. What is your favorite writing snack or drink?
Oh, tea. If anybody, one of my first articles that got written about me, I made the guy a whole pot of tea. Like, we had a pot of tea, because I'd won a trip to England and came back and I bought tea. Oh my God, that was so awesome. And so I made him a big pot of tea and we talked, and he wrote this article that went into the newspaper. And so and he even started out the article with how I'm a teetotaler. I just love a good cup of tea. That's my favorite thing. And not just for writing, or like anything. Oh, and it has to be
Love
hot tea, not sweet tea. I should clarify that. Because some people, if I ask for tea when I'm traveling, they bring me the wrong kind. No, I learned to specify.
Yes. Love that. What type of books do you personally enjoy reading?
I am a sucker for a mystery. I love Nancy Drew. This is how Nancy Drew grew up, right? I grew up on Nancy Drew. She was like my favorite. And then I got into, I hope I can plug another author. She was brilliant. Oh, so sad she passed away. Sue Grafton, who wrote the Alphabet Mysteries. To me, the protagonist in the book was like the adult, crass version of Nancy Drew, right? Solved mysteries, but she was rude and curt and had odd habits. I just felt like it was okay. Nancy Drew grew up. This is who she'd be. But yeah, and Sue Grafton passed away, and the alphabet was never finished. Her family said the alphabet ends at Y. Mm. But yeah, good. I think I've read that series maybe 3 times. So good. I just love her stuff.
Love that. Are there any books or authors that inspired you to become a writer?
Well, I did talk about that in the intro, the Mark Victor Hansen's The 1 Minute Millionaire. But I also knew that if other people did it, like I can do it. Like you can do anything. My dad always told me since I was a kid, you can do anything you set your mind to. So even if it doesn't take the same path that you think, because let's face it, life never does take the path that you think. I always hated that question in interviews. Where do you think you'll be in 5 years? I'm like, I have no idea. Because did you? Are you anywhere where you thought you were going to be 5 years ago? The answer is no. So we don't know what path. But he always said, you can do anything you set your mind to. And even though it took me like, I don't know, 20 times longer than I thought, I had a book. And so when I had the first printed copies, I wrote that to my dad in the book. And I said, yep, you're right. I can do anything I set my mind to. And I gave it to him. And he was really proud of me.
Love that. And I believe you touched on this, but what type of books did you grow up reading? Did you have an all-time favorite?
Well, since when I was a kid, mysteries, and I still love mysteries. But I always liked as I got older, I started getting into biographies. Everyone has a story. Everybody has a story. Some people just put it down in a book. And so I always loved reading biographies. Now, because I'm busy, sometimes when I go on for walks or I'm at the gym, I'll listen to an audible version of a biography. Because the modern ones are read by the actual person of their own biography, which is so cool. I really like those on Audible more than stories because it's the actual person. So I feel like I'm really getting their story. And I love anything motivational, metaphysical, inspirational, anything for your mindset. Like you name every author at Hay House, I've probably read their book. Anything from the classics like Wayne Dyer, right up to, Helene Hadsell, she wrote all inspirational books too. And, you pick an author. I just love all that stuff. Anything that positive mindset, law of attraction, metaphysical. There's way more to this planet than we have a clue.
Love that. On the opposite side of that, now as an adult, what's your favorite series or authors that if they come out with something, you automatically grab it?
Well, I was grabbing Sue Grafton, but I haven't seemed to have found my footing. And also, I haven't had time to read. So I've been shifting to, like I said, Audible, which are great when I'm driving. because I've been doing a lot of road trips. And so when you're on the road for 7 hours for a couple of days, you can get through a few books. And like I said, I've been for some now that I'm thinking about it, now that you've asked me that question, my Audible is like 90% biographies. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, what books do I grab? That and the other trick, my Kindle is very full of these. I get the Kindle deal of the day email every morning. And I look at it and I go, oh my gosh, that book that I've been thinking about is on for $1.99 or 99 cents or $2.99 or whatever the deal is. And I go, click, and it goes to my Kindle. And I have a lot of books on there that have not been looked at, that have been snapped up for a really good deal. So I've started actually because I thought I can't do this anymore. This is ridiculous. I'm buying all these books. So instead of doing Audible at the gym now, if I go on the treadmill, I take my Kindle and I prop it up on the machine in front of me and I make it a big font so I can read while I walk, because otherwise it's too hard. And that's the beauty of the Kindle, right? You can adjust the font. So I make it nice and big and I walk on the treadmill for 45 minutes or an hour and I get through quite a bit of the book.
Love that.
Yeah, these are health tips too, right?
What would you tell someone just starting out with reading again?
Find something light. Start and find that time where you can just now that it's getting to be warm again, I'm not a fan of the winter. There's nothing better to me than like on a Sunday morning, sitting outside, going outside on the back deck with a cup of tea. I always have my tea, my hot tea. And I'll grab a book or my Kindle, mostly my Kindle, because I've been saving space. I have my house is overrun with books, so I'm trying to get more Kindle versions because they don't take up space. And then just sit and enjoy. That's the best. That's like a perfect Sunday morning to me. It's just to sit with a cup of tea outside on the patio and just read. Oh my God, so nice.
Love that. On the other side of that, what would you tell someone just starting to write their own book?
Oh, I will give them the best advice I ever got. Okay. So when I was starting my journey, I was interviewing a lot of people, just doing research. And at that point, I was a member of the Chamber of Commerce. And so one of my colleagues at the Chamber of Commerce had written a book. And so I was talking to them and he said, write the table of contents out and keep writing. And that was the best advice, because the table of contents, even though it might change, will give you a structure of how you want to write. Like, okay, so I want to talk about this. And it might be more for nonfiction books than fiction, because fiction is a whole nother thing. And I know this because one of the books I did from Helene was fiction. And I could see where she was really novice, because I could still hear her voice in the book, where you're not supposed to hear the author's voice. You're supposed to hear the characters. But for someone in her 70s who decided, well, I'm going to take a creative writing class to learn how to do this, she had a really good story arc. I didn't anticipate what was coming up, which was great because it wasn't really obvious. And so it might be different for fiction, but once you have the structure for a nonfiction book, and then the other thing I would advise them to do is write the easiest chapters first. I know that sounds weird, but if you write the easiest chapters first, because there is a book out there called Eat the Frog, means get on with the worst thing in the day first, get it over with. It's like when you're a kid, they give you the cod liver oil. Just take this, get it over with, it's finished. If you turn around and write the easiest chapters first, when you get to those harder chapters, at least for me, it felt like I'd made so much progress that I didn't want to stop. I think if I tried to tackle the hardest chapters first, it would have felt like I was trying to climb a huge mountain. But because I had done all the easiest chapters and I had like half a book, I'm like, oh, I can keep, like, it gave me incentive to keep going. And I think it's the same for a lot of people.
Love that. What's one thing that people are generally surprised to find out about you?
Gosh, I don't know. I'm a pretty open book, and it's even worse with social media because you can go on there and I'm pretty much just me. I don't know what people would find as a surprise. Isn't that embarrassing? Now I don't know. We're gonna have to hang around more, Courtney, so
Love
then you
it.
can tell me.
Yes. Is there anything you would like to say or add?
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to reiterate my dad's advice. If someone wants to write a book, you can do anything you set your mind to, right? And yeah, you're gonna have challenges. You're gonna have hurdles. I still get them now. I'm like, oh, okay, what else do I have to figure out? I don't even sweat the hurdles anymore. I just, okay, what do I got to figure out now? I'm like, it's just part of the race. It's like going to a hurdle meet and then getting there and going, who put all these hurdles on the track? I guess it's what it is. We're running a race. It's the hurdles. You're gonna have them. So as long as you're expecting them and just figure it out. Like, I'll give an example from writing my book. I was doing layout and I use the same template for every book. That way they're all the same size. They fit through the mail slot when I put them in padded envelope so that shipping costs are cheaper. Yeah, just check that out. 6x9, just saying. And because I do put them on, Amazon and all that, but I always order myself. I have a printer and I always order myself some media copies. I have anywhere between 25 to 100 I'll order. So if I'm sending them out as promo items, I want them to be light enough to thin enough to be fit through the mail slot. So 6x9. There's another tip for your listeners. If you go 6x9, you can usually keep your book thin enough that it'll go through the mail slot. So when you order those promo books to send out, they'll fit. Anyway, oh my God, I think I just lost my point. Oh yeah. So I was doing some editing and the one page number was higher than the other. And I'm like, no, oh no, this is so annoying. But I realized that the computer is only doing what it's being told. So then I'm thinking to myself, okay, so where's the coding that's telling this page to be here and not here? And I went through and I clicked on a lot of things and I eventually figured it out and then I got them even. So don't panic when something comes up. Think, okay, so what is the coding that's telling you that this is coming this way? And you just have to go figure it out and you can switch whatever it is in your life to the path you want to be on. That was the point.
Amazing. Love that. Where's the best place for readers to find your books? I know some readers love signed copies. Is that an option and the best place to connect with you?
Well, the best place to find me is Words for Winning because I teach people how to win in life and sweepstakes. So I thought that was a very appropriate name for a website. And so that's where all the books are housed, along with any new books that are coming out. So I'm already like pre-populating pages so people will be abreast of the new stuff that I'm working on because I seem to always be working on something else. And maybe even authors I don't even know yet that eventually I will purchase the rights to their books and add to theirs. So Words for Winning is the best place. And then, of course, I have all the socials. So if you just type that in somewhere, I'm sure to pop up somewhere. And sign books, I don't do them very often, but what I do is, of course, being the contest queen, I always have giveaways. So if they follow me on Contest Queen, where I teach people how to win sweepstakes, they might have a chance to win a book.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We're so grateful we got to interview you. We'll be sure to drop those links in the show notes. And again, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I love sharing all my winning stories.